The drug life, fast and glamorous. Gold, clothes, fast cars. A few years ago, students much like yourself became involved. The life was exciting, but the life was short. For one, it ended late one night on a dusty siding to a railroad track, the victim of a drug-related murder. For another, it ended here, Superior Court. Manny Mejias, then 15, was convicted of that murder.
But what do you miss? What do you really miss? You miss the simple things in life. You miss being able to go out for pizza when you want. I miss being able to sit outside and looking at the stars, or look at the lightning when it rains, or just run out into the rain and get wet. There was a bunch of us hanging out in the hall, and this older man, he was telling me, well, you're lucky. He goes, you got busted when you were young, and when you get out, you'll be young. You'll be 35. I'm an old man. It's over for me. You know, this is all I got. And I asked him, I said, well, let me ask you this. Did you ever go to your prom? Did you ever graduate? He goes, yeah, I did graduate, and I did go to my prom. I told him, well, these are things that I never did. And I told the man, I said, you have memories. I said, I don't. I came from a family where there wasn't too much communication, and I had to do things by myself most of the time. And the only person I really had around me was my sister, and she went off to college. And when she was off in college, I was really by myself. I couldn't really talk to my parents that much. They worked hard, and they came home. They were tired, and they wanted to relax from a hard day's work. They were keeping the roof over our heads and the clothes on our back. And so I was pretty much left alone. And I hit the streets a lot because I used to go to a lot of friends' houses. And they'd be into things, and you'd go out to parties, you go out to the movies, and afterwards everybody wants to go party. And you want to fit in with your fellas, with your homeboys and stuff. I wanted to make my parents proud of me. They wanted me to go further than they did, and I wanted to do that for them. But by that time, I had been doing drugs so long that I was already on my way down. You know, I throw little bones out here and there. I throw little hints, you know, try to get my parents to catch me. And even though they suspected things, they trusted me. I spent a lot of times, man, when I was out there just doing nothing, sitting there and getting high and then feeling sorry for myself, man, you know, all this and all that. I wasn't accomplishing anything. Once you start drugs, it's a lot of people like to use the expression, you're riding a bike downhill with no brakes, and you can't stop, you know? And you can't stop until you hit rock bottom. You're either dead, you're in prison, or you're just a straight-out junkie strung out. I remember one time I was cruising, just me and one of my friends, we were cruising up and down the street. We got high, we were drinking, and I just turned around and I started talking to him. I just, you know, tell him how I felt and stuff, you know. Sometimes I get mad, sometimes I get sad and I feel like crying, but I can't. You know, if I cry, that's not the manly thing to do. And I was telling him how mad I was at my father that he couldn't talk to me. He was always too busy to talk to me. He always came home tired or he came home drunk, and he couldn't talk to me. He couldn't open up to me. My friend turned around and he looked me straight in the face and he goes, so what? You're not any different. The only time you talk to me is when you're drunk or when you're high. And that really hit me, that really shocked me. You might feel that your life's not really going the way you want it to go, and that you wanna do something to start over. There's things that you feel inside, there's questions you wanna ask, and there's things that you wanna say to your friends, and you might be a little afraid to say them, but say them.
It is a judgment and sentence of this court that the defendant be taken to the state prison to be confined therein for a period of not less than 20 years without the possibility of parole.
Manny, thinking back to when you were 15 years old, can you think of anything that would have kept you out of trouble?
There's only one thing that would have kept me out of trouble. And those are the choices that I made. Those are the decisions that I made. Whether to get in the car or not, whether to drink or not. That's, honestly, really, that's the only thing that would have made the difference. It's peer pressure, you know, people daring you to do things or trying to make you feel weak if you don't do what they're doing. That happened to me a lot, you know. When we'd go out, people want to drink a beer or whatever, and you're like, nah, I'm all right. And they're like, oh, what are you, chicken? And you know, you're sissy, just drink a beer. Everybody drinks a beer. And so you end up drinking the beer sometimes just to shut them up, you know. But those lead to different things. While you drink a beer, well, then smoke the joint, you know. While you smoke the joint, we'll do this line. It never stops. It just continues over and over. And the funny thing about that is the people that you're allowing to influence you at a young age, when you get older, those people aren't even going to matter.
When I was a kid, there were times when I knew I shouldn't do something, when I knew I shouldn't go with a group of friends because I might get in trouble. But I felt like if I didn't go, I wouldn't have friends, that they would make fun of me. And you know, when you get a little older, you realize just how stupid that is, because as Manny said, those people don't matter anymore. Those people are not the people you're going to depend on. What happens in high school seems so important, and in middle school it seems like, you know, what goes on there is everything. But pretty soon, when you get older, it doesn't matter, and those people aren't around.
You mentioned to me at one point that, at least in some neighborhoods, going to prison is something like a rite of passage.
Yeah, a lot of times kids, their fathers are in prison, their grandfathers have been to prison, and so they feel like if they go to prison, they're arriving somehow. They're becoming more of their family heritage or history, and they think it makes them a man. They think it makes them, you know, older somehow, and they don't understand the trap that it is. They don't understand what's in store for them after that. Prison is nothing like the movies at all. One of the things that I wanted to point out is they have security lights. The security lights stay on 24 hours a day, so you're never in the dark. You sleep with a light on every night. It's never quiet. It's always noisy. Somebody's always making noise. Somebody's always talking. There's never any privacy. People have nothing better to do than to be in your business. So people are always gossiping. They're always instigating fights. They're always trying to do something. It's never peaceful. It's never restful. You're always on edge. Anything can happen at any time. People get beat up really bad over a postage stamp or over a soda. We were walking to chow one day, and we were turning a blind corner. And out of nowhere, 3 guys jumped on this one guy, and within seconds, he was on the floor. They'd beat him up. And you can't stop and help. You have to keep going. If you stop and help, you can get in trouble by the other inmates for helping somebody who supposedly may have deserved something coming.
You mentioned chow, and you know, probably, I don't know if everyone's interested, but how is the chow?
Imagine eating school lunch for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. And that's what the meals are like. Your school lunch that most kids don't want to eat right now, you get served breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
So no birthday cake. Huh?
No birthday cake, no ma'am.
Well, Manny talked about rites of passage, and maybe your Uncle Joe went to prison, and when he got out of prison, he maybe learned something and decided, well, I'm going to straighten up. He got a job and he had a normal life, like maybe you or I. But nowadays, once you're in prison and you get out, your record follows you. You have a conviction. If you have a felony conviction, it's really hard to get housing. Apartments won't rent to people with felonies. You can't get grants to go to college. If you want to be a barber, say, if you have a felony on your record, you can't get a barber's license. Many doors are closed to you in this country once you get a felony.
In the old days, a lot of guys that would get in trouble, they would join the military. But now, with the conviction, it's going to be very hard to get into the military because they're just upping their standards.
I found a job opening for a dishwasher. And I said, okay, well, you know, that's a job. I need a job. At the bottom, can you pass a background check for a dishwasher? A couple of scrolls later, I found another job opening for a landscaper. And I said, okay, well, I can landscape. I need a job. Again, I got to the bottom of the page. Can you pass a background check?
Let me ask you a question, change the subject here. How was the effect of your crime on your family?
It was devastating. My crime didn't just affect my family. My crime affected everybody around me, my victim's family, the people that I was involved with, and my family as well. The first thing was my absence, my not being home. I was 15 years old when I went to prison. I learned how to drive when I got released from prison. So my parents didn't have the joy or frustration of teaching me how to drive. I'm sure every single birthday, every Christmas, every Thanksgiving, seeing the empty chair of me not being there, you know, I don't know exactly how much they went through, but I know that it was painful for them, and there was nothing I could do about it.
Another effect on your family is, you know, just the friends of your parents are got to be saying behind your mother's back, boy, she can't be much of a mother if her son has been arrested.
My mother ended up going to a different church after I got arrested. She just wasn't comfortable there anymore because of the talking and whatnot. And my girlfriend at the time, she actually had to switch schools.
And then you never thought about that. You said, the worst that can happen is going to happen to me, but not to
Exactly.
all these other people. You know, Manny, there's probably a lot of kids out there watching this video now saying, you know, that happened to him, it happened to some kids in front of Judge Sattler, but, you know, I'm smarter than that. I'm not going to get caught. So I'm just going to continue doing what I'm doing. What would you tell them?
I made a lot of bad choices back then. I think getting in the car with my homeboys getting ready to do dirt, that was probably one of the worst ones. But you know how it is, man. I had to play the part. I had to look tough. I had to be down. Even though deep down inside, I knew that I needed help. I knew that I was in trouble. Like I said earlier, going down the hill on a bicycle with no brakes, I knew that I was going to crash. One of the things that I didn't tell you guys was that my final trial, when they were trying to decide whether I should be a juvenile and stay in prison until I was 18 or be transferred as an adult and go to prison forever, at that trial, the courtroom was packed and there was a lot of familiar faces. The judge allowed one by one for people to get up and say how they knew me. So one by one, I heard, I'm Manny's friend. I'm Manny's counselor from school. I'm Manny's Sunday school teacher. I'm Manny's uncle. I'm Manny's girlfriend. It was at that moment that I knew that I was never really alone. That at any time I could have went to any one of these people and say, you know what, I'm in trouble, I need help. If I had just let go of that pride, if I had just let go of that tough guy attitude and just let them know I need help, I think things would have been different.